All right, welcome you guys to a new episode of In the Trenches at the Gestalt Education Show. I'm Dr. Taylor Premer, one of your co-hosts, along with Brett Winchester here. We are excited to be sitting down with MaryAnne and Cody Dimaks. So they are the chiropractic power couple. They're both faculty members at the Parker University. They've both spent time in private practice and have been heavily involved with the R2P group for basically their whole lives. And so we're really excited to kind of sit down. And so could you guys kind of take us through maybe your transition from private practice into academia and kind of how that has shaped how you're shaping students now?
Yeah, I guess I'm more of the historian.
Yes.
So Cody and I met in chiropractic school, and that was at Logan. Graduated 2011 and 2012. And we actually just decided to up and move to California, where we knew nobody, and opened up a practice in an area that we had been one time, or in Orange County, California. We moved there at the beginning of 2012, and then for maybe a long story for maybe a different day, we opened up the doors to Maximum Performance Chiropractic in April of 2013. And it was just a wild and fun and awesome ride, and we had the doors open for about 5 years, had just an amazing time. We built our practice from the ground up, cash-based, just kind of inventing whatever we wanted to do as we went. I think that gave us some really cool experiences that has benefited us greatly now in our current roles. 3 years ago now? Yeah. 3 years ago, we were starting to think about starting a family and having kids, and it really just kind of came down to us not wanting to be in California with a family and kids and being able to own a house at any point in our lives there. So we decided to move closer to our families in Central Time Zone, and we said, hey, who gets an opportunity in the middle of their career after opening the doors of a brick and mortar practice to pivot? Ross Friends references, always welcome there. Pivot. And so we said, what's something we've been passionate about but we haven't been able to do? And teaching had always been in the background. We were close to Southern California University Health Science, the chiro school out in LA. And so we had been guest lecturing and working a lot with the R2P crew there. And so we knew we wanted to be faculty in some capacity eventually. And so we decided to pursue opportunities there. And Cody found an opportunity here at Parker, and we decided to go for it. We moved in May of 2018. We were, at that point, I was pregnant with our first child.
We.
Yeah. Cody,
I don't know if it's, technically no, but it was a we thing. And
what's mine is yours, right?
Yeah, yes, it was definitely. Sorry.
We knew this was going to get off the rails quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I just can't.
3 minutes and 20 seconds.
It's too much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot Regroup. So we had Madeline in September of 2018, and then about 3-4 months later, I was like, okay, it's time for me to work. And he connected me with the HR department, and I pretty much just said, where do you want me? And they had an opening that actually ended up being perfect for my skill set and my passion. So I started in January of 2019, and we've been just working since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the first job I actually had when I came to Parker was actually as a clinic faculty doctor, and so it was actually an easy transition for me, going from clinical practice basically to still in clinical practice, but now having the opportunity to show the students kind of like how I treated, how I always thought I thought everybody treated that way, but obviously, we know that's not the case. But then kind of some things happened to where an opportunity came open for me to actually start teaching in the classroom as well. And so for our 2 trimesters, I did both full-time in the clinic and teaching physiotherapy too, which is all the active exercise stuff. And just from a wear and tear perspective, it kind of wore on me because it's a lot. I had to do 40 hours in the clinic and still manage that class and stuff. And so I've now fully transitioned into academics now, teaching that course and another helping out in a couple other courses too. So it's been a great ride.
Well, the students are lucky. So you guys have been heavily influential in Rehab2Performance. So I know, MaryAnne, you're on the board, and Cody, you played a big role in it. So can you explain like what that organization is, how it started, and then kind of where it's going?
Yeah. So Rehab2Performance, R2P, actually started in the early 2000s under Dr. Craig Liebenson and a group of people. There's so many people who've been involved. Dr. Jason Brown was a really big player throughout, and especially kind of played a huge role into the evolution of R2P. We actually weren't involved at Logan with R2P because R2P Club didn't start at Logan until my Tri-10. I was a Tri-10. I was at a preceptorship, and I remember guest lecturing, being asked by Dr. Bo Beard, and Dr. Anthony Ament asked me to guest lecture about the shoulder, which I didn't know anything back then. Still probably don't. But the evolution of R2P, which again started under Dr. Liebenson, but it really has become this grassroots, student-driven organization. And around 2014 or 15, Dr. Liebenson realized, and again with Dr. Brown's advice, and they knew it was time for a new regime. They knew it was time to shift and transition. And I was asked with another person, Dr. Justin Dean, to take over R2P and kind of like start the new season or the new chapter. Dr. Dean ended up in China and not having really great cell phone reception or access to the internet. So it really kind of fell onto me to take it and move with it. And I recruited a board of directors, which now has Dr. Bo Beard, Dr. Jeffrey Barron, and Dr. Matt Ward. And we've been just redefining what it is. And our biggest focus is the strength that R2P's always had, which is the student clubs. So there's student clubs at campuses all across the country, and really their entire focus is bridging the gap between rehab and performance, and how do we create patient-centered N=1 care that involves all of the different modalities and ways to treat. So that's from soft tissue work to adjusting to rehab, so it's not all rehab. And
I think it's hard because same thing with MPI, like as a student and if you come in and try one and someone were to tell you you're going to be $200,000 in debt, and oh, by the way, to get the information you need, you got to go to a club at lunch that's run by a bunch of students. That just sounds absurd, but then that's kind of how it is, and it's able to like fill gaps in education. And I definitely have seen it at Logan where, because of MPI Club and R2P Club, and they kind of compete with each other also in a good way, a healthy way.
Yeah.
Like that inner competition is putting out like some amazing,
phenomenal.
I mean, the one that jumps out at me, like we've had amazing interns, but just like as far as like a pure R2P, Kyle Yates, he was just, out of this world good. And and then, so just in that R2P sector, MPI, we obviously are influenced with that, but I've been really, really impressed with how, they are pushing the dial on stuff. And the students are coming out, I think, better than they've ever came out. And it's not because the curriculum is getting that much better. It's just because as crazy as it sounds, the clubs are getting that much better. And so like at least at Logan, we've now ran the R2P interns through our office now, and they've been just, they're top flight for sure. So
definitely. And that the student club has been the main focus. And then, as you know, we have coming up we've been trying to just create a space where people can come together and create a continuing education platform that is unlike any other, where it's not really a sales pitch for a certain technique, or it's not XYZ ABC. It's just, let's jam. I always like to talk about treatment being like playing jazz. So everybody has to learn the basics of music, and then you show up at the jam session, it's just like, what are we going to talk about today, or what are we going to play today? Let's play it in A, let's do this beat, and then you just go. And that's kind of how practice was for me, and I know that's how it was for Cody, and that's what we've been trying to create at the R2P Symposium, is a scenario where we've got phenomenal docs such as Dr. Winchester coming up here. But we just bring people together and have them jam sesh together. It's been really cool over this is going to be our, third in person, fourth
total.
Thanks, COVID.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, and I think collaboration is a pretty common, or that maybe is the encompassing word to talk about it. Wouldn't you agree? Of collaboration between multiple different schools of thought, and that's really what Gestalt is for us as well. Is like getting input from multiple different techniques or gurus, if you want to call it that way, people in general, and combining it into one. And so I think that you guys have done a really good job of that. And so what's kind of next for R2P and what going forward?
So right now we've got our symposium coming up in the next couple weeks in St. Louis at a really cool place. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. But
it's a little place called
plug.
It's a little place called Troy, Missouri.
Troy, Missouri. I feel like the name is familiar. Winchester.
Yeah, all right.
Spine and Sport.
It's just a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
But yeah, no, that's going to be there. It's in a couple weeks. We've got Dr. Brett Winchester, Rich Ulm, who's always a hoot if you've ever seen him, and a man, the guy's just like a walking encyclopedia. And then Dr. Courtney Conley, who's been a really fun resource for us to use. I've been following her for a couple years, and she's just really inspiring too. So we've got them in St. Louis coming up in a couple weeks. And from here on out, it's really just, honestly, it's our board is just taking a little bit of a back seat and letting the students create. We actually created a board for them. It's like a National Student Club Executive Board, and they are coming together and doing some fun stuff. And we're honestly going to put together a great symposium every year, and we're going to just shut our mouths and listen to what they want and do what we can to support them and create opportunities for them.
Cody, what do you think about kind of this new contemporary chiropractic student who's basically, we're starting to think outside of just being in the treatment room, where, we're kind of like in that gym hybrid situation, and that's kind of like, you can just feel the movement kind of heading that way. So maybe you could enlighten us about what you think the future is in that world and how that was important for what, your model. And
yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I practiced anyway. When we were in California, so kind of seeing some shift towards that direction from students, it kind of warms my heart a little bit. So, but no, I can honestly, with the students too, being a PT2, I'm not ignorant to the fact that not everybody wants to do active care, active exercise. I understand that, but if I could try and nudge them in a direction to where maybe they, if they're not going to implement it in their practice, can you find somebody in your area who can do that? Is that a strength coach? Is that another chiropractor where you co-manage a case with, right? And so just knowing base knowledge of that and being able to communicate with other professionals to actually, for that N=1, kind of approach for our patient care, then that's kind of what I would want from all the students. But the students who actually are shifting towards that, we have a setup right now here at Parker for that. In our PT2 lab, we have a squat rack, we have barbells, we have kettlebells, we have bumpers, cable machine. We've got the whole nine, right? And so we go over that, and it's kind of, for me, it's always been how, kind of my general approach to patient care is like, how can I load this patient as fast as possible? How can I get them back to their goals? And usually that involves some type of loading. And so, like from my perspective, I take kind of R2P approach. I'm trying to pull from everywhere, right? And so from a motor learning perspective, from like dynamic systems theory, those constraints here, one of them is the individual in the body. So like that's, do we need to do some type of adjustment, some type of mobilizations, something like that to change the actual movement outcome, right? And so I try to implement that right now for those students in PT2 to kind of show them, hey, this is what's possible. This is where we can go with this. Really the end goal, again, kind of the overarching theme, I guess, is the kind of the N=1. But I would try to push the load as much as possible. It's just kind of my bag, I guess.
Who is Cody in the world of strength conditioning? Who are the names of the books that have influenced you over the years? I
mean, for me personally, a little background, kind of my thing, I've had 3 back surgeries. And I've had, in the middle of chiropractic school, I had a fusion, L4, L5, S1, anterior interbody lumbar fusion. And so that happened in Tri 5, between 5 and 6. And so that was my 3rd surgery, and I was like, okay, how do I stop this from happening again? I cannot have another one, right? And so I got pointed in the direction of Craig Liebman's Rehab spine book, but then really McGill's book, Low Back Disorders and Ultimate Back Fitness and Performance. And honestly, I hope none of my old instructors are listening. Tri 6 and Tri 7 was basically me reading those books. And so I essentially kind of like built my rehab from McGill's books, right? And getting into private practice, those were, I didn't take any seminars before when I was in school. None. It was just school. And so those texts were actually what kind of drove me and kind of pushed me towards those directions of just kind of building, basically starting from the middle out. In terms of actual strength and conditioning, wasn't until kind of getting into practice when from personal experience from playing college football and whatnot, I had a decent background in strength and conditioning. Nothing from a hard education standpoint. But getting in private practice, looking at Brian Carroll's stuff, he worked with McGill, and Chris Duffin, he's an absolute monster, and the principles that those guys teach in actual lifting is kind of where I kind of tend to take things for the big three lifts, if you will, bench, squat, deadlift. So that's kind of where my biases lie in terms of just strength and conditioning. But really from the get-go is McGill. It was always his work,
So we've had a lot go on here on campus in the last year. So besides whole COVID, I don't know if our listeners realize a tornado actually hit here last, I don't know, when was that?
It's October 2019, yeah.
So obviously we think the world of Bill Morgan, and we know like what his long-term vision here is. So can you maybe speak about like this past year, like the trials and tribulations of what's gone on and the struggles?
Really funny because that fall was the first semester where I was in the clinic and teaching. So it was my first time actually teaching a full class in a classroom, and it the tornado hit in October. And I remember what lecture was, because it was my favorite lab. It was going to be my favorite lab, was the shoulder lab, and I had to put the lab online. And so the whole transition of us having to try and move everything online, because there was actually a point to where, like, okay, the big question was thrown out: do we just cancel school? Like, do we call it quits? Yeah. You know what I mean? That was an option, right?
Before COVID.
This is before COVID, right? So do we call it quits? I mean, what are we going to do? And
our buildings are damaged.
Buildings destroyed. Clinics, part of the clinics messed up.
Windows in the room we're in right now were gone. The roof was ruined.
It was a lot of stuff. Yeah. And so I think testament to kind of the team that Dr. Morgan's built over his time here. We pivoted.
We pivoted.
And
I think that one of the things,
push online really kind of helped push him forward to later events.
Dr. Morgan's quick, and his team, of course, they moved very quickly after the storm happened, and they secured generators immediately, which was the reason we got to reopen a week and a half later, instead of some other businesses, like one of the Central Markets, which is an amazing grocery store, and I'd travel, if I'm driving by one on the way home, I'll hit it, right? And I was on my way to one on the way home, and it's still closed now. And it's almost a year and a half later. But there's businesses that have not recovered at all, and big businesses that haven't recovered at all. And Dr. Morgan moved quickly, and I think that he's had the students and keeping his goal of our students at Parker being the best of the best has always been in the forefront of his mind, that you can just tell with all of his actions. But what the storm actually did is it was a catalyst really to change. And the change on campus is going to end up being with us having a building that is probably the most technologically advanced building. We have a lot of good tech here anyways, but the building they're going to rebuild is going to be ridiculously advanced. We've got these amazing anatomy tables where they're interactive and they're playing with virtual reality now. There's just all of this innovation that's going to come into the curriculum that we're all really excited about. And then another big push is that, because of us having a huge event where now we're going to be pouring money into buildings on campus, Dr. Morgan shifted a lot of focus to our new Parker Fit gym, which I think is going to be a beacon. As soon as it's okay for people to come together, I think it's going to be a place where people come together often on campus, where we can maybe host some of these cool symposia moving forward. I already want an R2P symposium to happen at Parker Fit. Right. I haven't asked if Dr. Morgan, if you're listening, let's talk. But that, it's just going to be a really cool thing. And I think it's going to create buzz around Parker that maybe it existed before and always has, but maybe just not in this light. So I think it's kind of fun to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed, because we have interns from all the schools, and so we've had now two. We had Ben Stevens and we had Kyle Thompson. So now it's good to see like the fruits of your labor as far as like the teaching, and then they come up and they're doing great. They're doing absolutely great. Whereas, I mean, quite honestly, I always say too, like 10 years ago, I never would have been on a stage in Parker because that was just a different thing. And now what Bill's doing, like in our world, he's got great people that are now teaching. It's so neat to see the school kind of turn around, and you can just like feel it all kind of trickle down whenever you're on campus here. And I mean, it's contagious, honestly, his leadership, and I think everything he's been able to do, and get the right people like you too, and kind of understand that these are the right people. That's the other hard part about it. Yeah. So
and put them in power and put you in places to make a big effect. And I think that's before we hopped on, you were saying, it's Bill's vision, but you're the boots on the ground, and so I have to imagine that having that vision out there and knowing where it's going makes it easier for you to maybe go through the difficulties and stuff like that, and stay plugged into your students.
Right.
It's been with COVID, that's a whole different another topic, but that's been a big challenge. And you're right, it has kind of been a little fire, like a little carrot ahead of us to just keep going. But the thing that we're up against is we're kind of tied to a curriculum, that the curriculum can't change unless there's committees that meet and the committees approve little tiny things, and all of the, like, we're really understanding the bureaucracy of academics now, and to realize like how much effort it takes to change. And I think that I won't speak for Cody's team, but my team in the clinical science department, we have a phenomenal group of clinicians. We have radiology fits within my department also, and not a radiologist. I like bright rooms. I like natural light. I'm like a house plant. But the group of clinicians the radiologists are phenomenal, but the group of clinicians got together and we made some recommendations and some like things of how do we get more neuromuscular skeletal information in the curriculum. Like we're working to get this stuff implemented, and things like COVID have tabled us, but also are going to help us reinvent the wheel once it gets time to, if that makes sense. Like we get to kind of not start over because we've been going, but there's going to be like a refresh button that we get to hit, and hopefully some of the things we've all been working on get to come to fruition.
Yeah. I got a question for you, because a lot of people, they actually end up, because of their age and same interest, they end up finding their wife in chiropractic college or their husband like you guys did. Now, so the question that everyone always asks is like, so if we go into practice, is that even a possibility? So you guys actually were in practice together. Do you want to comment maybe on, would you recommend that? Did it?
They're both staring into each other's eyes.
Totally. Absolutely. It all depends on what's possible for the people, right? Like, and now we get to being on this end of it and looking back, like we were idiots. We should have never started that practice when we did. Like we shouldn't have. No. It was a horrible business choice. I'm really glad it worked out for us. But like, and now that I know about business, by going through it, I know what I would have done differently, and that helps us get to be able to coach students and give them advice and make them second guess or think twice before moving into things. So if the support system is there and if the finances fit, there's no reason that I don't think a husband-wife team can be really successful in practice. But that's one of the biggest things is like their biggest issue was that we were in the same boat. Because we were both going to have to live or die based off of how the practice performed. But the best benefit was that we were in the same boat, and so we understood what we were going through together.
Right.
So like when a husband or wife starts a practice and their other half is in another business, something maybe more stable, whether it's chiropractic or something else, it's hard to see eye to eye on what the challenges of starting a practice from the ground is, because it really is its own thing. And that we never struggled with it because we were doing it together. Sure. So like, I think that there's a huge upside and a huge downside. The downside risk is that if you fail, like, good luck. Our thing was plan C was my parents' basement in Mitchell, South Dakota.
I was not going to make that happen.
Like that, but that it wasn't going to be the worst thing in the universe to happen.
I was working 3 jobs.
So there was no fallback, but we really, it's kind of funny because we were only 4 months into dating when we made the decision to move to California.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
our relationship really was built through building a practice, which was unique and cool.
Yeah, I definitely think it's totally doable. I think there are a lot of aspects that of that are way too deep and complicated to go over in something like this.
Well,
right?
finding strengths, you have to play to strengths.
Yeah.
I'm the organized, I am the overseer. I see big picture stuff. I know how to put pieces into place to make sure something happens 6 months down the line, and he's the workhorse. That's what you saw. And if you looked at our numbers, he was the heavy producer, but that's because that's what his strength was. I wasn't as busy, but I also I could have told you the password for all of our bank accounts. He probably didn't even know what bank we banked with.
I think I do.
The
card says this.
Yeah, the cards, but that type of thing. And
I get it.
Yeah. So
no, it's good. I mean, it's no different than any other relationship, a working relationship, or anything like that. If we didn't have Lindsay, our office manager, we'd probably all be lost too. So it's just one of those things. It's all got to come together for perfect. So.
And we didn't have the money to hire, so we were the one who opened the door, and we checked you out, we checked you in, we took the payments, and that created a really cool family feel in our practice though. Our patients saw that, and it wasn't like they saw us, it wasn't like a struggle thing. We were the face of our company, and it made it really, I don't know what
they want to do business with you. They're rooting for you.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of they were a part of our growth, and they saw us. I had a patient who saw me in my first place that we saw patients in, which was behind the front desk at a gym, in a literal gazebo.
It was a tent.
It was a tent.
It was a tent.
Inside, it was an outdoor tent inside behind the front desk at a gym. The plug-in went through the top for a light. Oh God, it was great. But I had a patient who saw, we had a handful of them, but one of them, she always would comment about how she had been my patient since the safari tent days. There's just, you can't create that level of, she referred everybody to me because she was a part of our story. That's the kind of feel I think business people should go for.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Creating collaboration, and absolutely.
And let them know what you want. Hey, I'm trying to be the best chiropractor in Orange County. Who can you help? Who can you send to me? Who can I help? I've helped you, so that you can not only help them obviously get the benefit of feeling better, moving better, getting rid of their knee pain, whatever it is, but you're helping me build my dream, and that, I think it's
Maybe one more thing to end on here is, we asked Bill Morgan this exact question, is give us, each of you, baby, your sales pitch for if a prospective student is thinking about chiropractic schools. What makes Parker different, and why would they pick Parker?
I think the way, the direction Parker's going with how they're structuring their education for the students, the hands-on experience that we're really creating for the students throughout the program, outside of classroom hours, right? Puts the students in a position to be the best, period. We were coming up, MaryAnne mentioned, the technology that we're pumping into the new build out of, we call the South Building, is just going to be first class, right? We're upgrading all our facilities to top notch, right? This is going to end up being ground zero for chiropractic, I think, and this is where somebody should start their journey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that it same thing. It's the innovation, and it's the ideas, and the dedication of the faculty to creating an experience that is next level. And we are doing everything we can to making sure that what we're teaching is evidence-based. It's something that will be beneficial to the student to become the best doctor that they can be, and the best chiropractor that they can be. And I think that those two things kind of combined creates, it's gonna be awesome. I think any student that's starting at Parker right now is gonna leave Parker, and they're gonna be close to the top of the field.
That's the goal.
Perfect.
It gets you excited. So, thank you guys so much for sitting down. To find out more, to follow you, Cody actually is a hilarious follow on Instagram that I just figured out today. I can't believe I've been missing that my whole life. So
you've missed.
Oh my gosh. So, what's the best way to find more about R2P, and what's the best way to find out about you two, or to contact you guys?
R2P, probably Instagram or Facebook. You can just search Rehab2Performance. Just do one word for Facebook. It's Rehab2, the number 2, performance.r2p on Instagram. Sorry, I'm a shaker. For me, you can find me on Instagram at Mama Knows Movement, MAMA Knows Movement. And then
if you want to have a couple chuckles here, you can follow me on Instagram at fake Max Perform Chiro.
So I'll put them all in the show notes so that we can do it. But Cody's a little outrageous. That's why we love him, though. So, well, thank you guys so much for sitting down, and thank you for putting the boots on the ground and really pushing this profession forward on ground zero, starting from the beginning. And we're forever indebted to people like you that are doing the hard work. And so, with that being said, anything, Brett?
No, just glad I had them both as students, so like to see them like come down here and do what they're doing. I mean, you talk about a proud dad moment. For me, it's just like, yeah, it's just awesome.
It's insane. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we want to make Dad proud. Yeah. We're just grateful for the opportunity to impact.
Yeah,
it's a really cool feeling.
At the end of the day, I think that's what we're all searching for too, is just to make an impact on this profession, make an impact on the people around us, whether that's patients, students, other doctors, and to push this profession forward and to put our boot down and say that we're going to be the leaders in the musculoskeletal health. And so that's what we want to try to do here at Gestalt Performance, and that's what Parker University is doing. So so far we've had two podcasts with Parker University faculty, Dr. Morgan, and then now you guys. So that's pretty amazing. So anyway, keep pushing forward, guys. Good luck on Monday, and keep crushing patients.